Wondering what's next in your business or personal life? Welcome to Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, a podcast dedicated to helping you with all of life's challenges, discoveries, and opportunities. Whether you're seeking a new career, retirement, or simply wanting to make an impact in your community or the world. Join Jen Du Plessis and her guests as they explore how to start, what to do when you're in the thick of a change or growth, and how to leave a mark in this world after breaking through your next achievement. You are moments away from the aha you've been seeking.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. I'm so excited about today's guest because we had this beautiful conversation on the phone for like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and doggone it, we didn't record that call, and that's what we should have done. But that's the way life goes. But today we have Diane Halfman with us. She is the founder of SPALife, which wait to hear what SPA stands for. And she helps women entrepreneurs with decision making and a lot of things that are right along the same line of, what I do. It's just amazing how, God brings us together. That's all I got to say. It's just amazing how that happens. So Diane, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jen. It's so great to be here and just be sharing with your audience. And I'm just smiling so big because I love when women are just synergistic and our messages are all very similar. We just touch different audiences and we bring our life experience into it. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So we're going to talk about your life experience too, but why don't we start with how you got from where you were to what you're doing now? Tell us about your history, because you've got this, I love your history, by the way, and I want to say again, thank you for your service to our country and to everybody around it. I know your husband's involved too, but so tell us a little bit about your history and how you transformed into what you're doing now.
Well, thanks, Jen, for asking. It seems like an unlikely path. I was a San Diego police officer for 10 years. I worked uniform patrol as well as undercover in gangs, narcotics, and vice, and particularly undercover as a prostitute because we were hunting a serial killer. And I, cultivated over the years some skill sets to not second guess myself, to be more confident, to be able to make very quick decisions in very life and death situations. And so when I retired from the police department, I started utilizing these skills to help women entrepreneurs to not second guess themselves, to have those boundaries, to really make those bigger decisions, and to really see how that can affect not only how they were being in business, but also decisions they were making in their own life as well. So I cultivated SPALife, and as you had alluded to, SPALife is an acronym. The SPA is for Seek Power Always, that power within you to do that deeper work, that we have to be able to reach in and be able to listen to ourselves and our intuition and to utilize that power as a launching pad to be able to impact the people that we want to in our life as well as ourselves to live the life that we're actually here to do.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit, and I know we're going to talk about a lot of things with this too. And with this podcast being Success to Significance, you had a lot of success in your practice, and to being a police officer, and then you moved into this, impact. How do I make impact and be significant to other people? And of course we all go through glass ceilings, variety of glass ceilings. So let's talk about your story, and then I'd like to talk about where you think this is coming from for women generally. In what I see is sometimes the inability to make a decision. They just get halted for whatever reason, and I'm sure there's a multitude of reasons behind it. I know I have a reason why I'm second guessing myself, on occasion. But tell us about your transformation in that. I mean, you went into becoming a police officer. I don't know if you've always been tough. Was there something in your past that created this toughness in you, or was it something that happened, while you were in it and you had that aha moment that said, I am woman, hear me roar, watch out, here I go?
Well, Jen, I did not grow up wanting to be a police officer. It was nowhere on my radar. Being the oldest of 3 children, my parents wanted me to be successful. And my dad, as I was going into college, said, are you going to be an attorney or a doctor? As if those were my only 2 choices in the world to be successful and have a good income. I
Right.
knew I didn't want to go into the medical field, and I was intrigued by law. And in fact, I got my degree in criminal justice and started working with an attorney my senior year in college, and realized that this was not the path for me. I found it very tedious and boring, and I didn't want to be inside all day. And so I was looking like, what am I going to do now with this degree in law? And I had a lot of the guys that were graduating college at the same time were going into law enforcement, and they just encouraged me to take the test. And I exceeded, very well in the test. And at the time, because of what was going on in the world with the serial killer, and there weren't that many women on the department, they needed more women. And I basically stepped in at the right time and had no idea what I was getting into. I'm someone who grew up, middle class family, 12 years of Catholic school, had
Yeah.
no idea what was going on in the street. And this was a rude awakening for me
Wow.
to really get into this. And I had been married for 6 years and became a single parent as I was coming onto the department, had 2 small daughters. And for me, it really became having to pep talk with myself, especially late nights walking down alleys, by myself. I worked by myself a lot to really just have that commitment that I have to get home every night. I had my
Yeah.
daughters to get home. And so I had a really big reason to make sure that I was clear about what I was doing, to be very cautious, but also to trust myself. And that came with a lot of practice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm a concealed weapons carrier, so I'm comfortable, but I can't imagine going up and down an alley at night dressed in the manner you would have had to been dressed, and knowing that someone was out there seeking someone, just to take advantage of. So, I mean, there must have been, and I think that this is some of what decision making is too, is there's so much fight or flight, right? In our
Yes.
decision making, because, and if I put myself in that situation for you, that would be, you would have to make a decision very quickly. It's either I'm going to fight or I'm going to, take flight. And I think that when a lot of people, men, women alike, come up to that decision making mode, right at the tip of it, it is a fight or flight. And, and trying to incorporate wisdom and trying to incorporate some other things that I know we're going to talk about here in just a minute. But so where do you think this all stems from in the business world? What have you learned from working with women, so that women and men, both that are listening here, can help themselves when they get to that fork in the road and they have to make, good quality decisions, how to not second guess themselves, how to trust themselves. What are some of the tactics that people aren't using that they should be using to get there?
Right. Yes. Well, one of the things that I found that has really distinguished decision making between men and women is men tend to be a little bit more okay with being wrong, to
Mm,
actually just throw out their decisions and see what sticks and go with it. They're okay to pivot, and it doesn't have to be 100%. It could be 20%, and they're still going to throw their ideas out
mm,
there and just keep moving forward and keep going. For women, it has been statistically proven that unless women actually feel that their decision making is 100% correct, they will be less likely to actually put it out there. In fact, they will actually be thinking about an idea, and then a man at the same table will throw out the same idea and he'll
I,
run with it, and she's still thinking about it because she wants to be completely right about that. And
right.
so one of the things that I help women with is I have them really look at where have they seen their success in decision making before. Because if we can build on where has that decision making worked for us, then we can kind of build on that success and go, okay, I can build that muscle and I can do it again. When we don't see that we've made successful decisions in the past, it makes it really hard in the moment to move forward, and we stand in that paralysis of waiting to get to that 100%. When we can really see that, hey, we have made great decisions, whether it's in our personal life or past business or just in general, when we can do that, we build upon that success.
Yeah, I'm smiling about this as you're talking about it because, coming from the mortgage space, way back, for almost 40 years ago, it was a male dominated industry. And when you were saying about the man sitting there and the woman thinking, an idea, there were times where I thought, gosh, they just took my idea. And it
Yes.
was not because, or I was overlooked for something, and I don't play that game. I'm a tough girl, but it's probably because I wasn't finished with my thought process on delivering it, and they came up with the idea quickly. And so they got credit for having that idea, as opposed to I could have had credit for that idea had I got it off the ground faster.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's where, I'm able to differentiate, because I literally had to make decisions that were life and death decisions. So I didn't have the luxury of time to ponder it over and yes or no, or have all of those things. And so I started really looking at a lot of pre-thinking of scenarios. Like, if I was in this, how would I be? If this happens, how would I react? And I knew what my boundaries were, what I was basing my decision making on. And this completely, works for the civilian life too. I mean, how you want to move forward in your business. You know what you want to bring to the table. Usually it's just a few extra bits of information that solidify the direction that you already know. And when you get that knowing solidified within you, the knowledge just enhances it, but you have to really go with the knowing.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. So, do you have a tactic that you use, or one tactic that you use that helps someone make a decision? I know I have tactics that I use that you and I've talked about, and I'm curious to see what your answers are going to be as well. Is how to, when they find yourself sort of in that pondering and you're not taking action, and you know that you need to take action quicker, what could you tell yourself? What is there a mantra? Is there, I mean, gosh, Michael Mayer, who wrote Seven Levels of Communication, he literally has a piece of paper that I think has 50 or 60 words, it's same word, and it says, get it, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. Do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. And you literally go through and cross that out. Do it now, 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 do it now. And when you're all done, you're like, okay, let's do it now. Which is crazy. I can't believe it works. It's like Mel, oh gosh, what's her last name?
Mel Robbins.
Mel Robbins, with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? I prefer
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it's a mechanism that triggers. So what kind of trigger do you have that helps business women and men make better decisions faster?
Well, the most simple thing is core values. You and I have talked about this. If you don't know your core values, if you don't know why you're here or what you're standing for, it makes it really hard to make decisions, because you've got nothing to base those decisions on.
Yeah.
So if you know what those core values are, if you know, like, what is my mission? What is my purpose? Like, what are those things? We hear those words, and sometimes they feel like, you say words that they start kind of blurring out, like goals and values, and they don't mean anything.
Right.
It's like, what do those words actually mean to you? How do those things get incorporated in your life, so that when you are making decisions, you are actually basing them on something? Now, one of the tools that I use, and I actually share with clients I'm working with, is I have something called Diane's Daily Design. And it's actually, for those of you who are watching and not listening, I have a big calendar in the middle here, because I'm a very visual person. I like to see, 1 or 2 words of what it is I'm doing. And I actually have my values on here. I have a value statement. I talk about, how is it that I'm being the best? The number one thing for me is to be with my people. Right.
Yeah.
And so what is that? That's my clients. That's my family. That is my sweetheart. Those are, my God, like, these are my people. That is like the number one thing with me. So what is the decisions I'm doing? Who am I impacting? What am I doing? And how does it affect my people and me being with my people? So that is like the number one thing that I weigh against people, is how it affects my people and myself. Another thing for me is to enjoy epic health. Like, health is so important to me. We've all heard this, statistics around, if you don't have your health, you have no other wishes or goals in the world. And for me, that's a very broad topic, from going to the gym to getting a massage to getting a facial to having self-care to getting good sleep. I mean, the spectrum of health for me is very big, because I believe that you need to show up completely ready and prepared in yourself as your best self in order to be able to help other people. The S in the best for me is for standing in your power. I walk the talk. I look at where am I being confident? Where am I giving my power away? How is the decisions that I'm making? How is it that I am standing in my power with it, but I'm also leaving the space for people to stand in their power? That it's a two-way street to make sure that I'm showing up in my best way. And then my T in best is to transform the world. Right now in particular, I am very passionate about saving the children, being involved in human trafficking. I'm an abolitionist, which is a donor for something called Operation Underground Railroad, that is all about helping and saving children. You got to look at what's something bigger than you that is part of what you are doing, that is part of your values, that is part of how you make decisions, which is why you get up in the morning and you're excited to do what you do, because you're clear on that. When you have that framework, it is something that you base everything against on whether you do it or you don't do it.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Just a little side note here. Saturday, I went shopping with my daughter and squatted down, didn't bend over, squatted down to look at something on the lower shelf and stood up and my back went out, right? And so all day yesterday, I was consumed with managing my back. Nothing else got done. And I think that that's an extreme example, but it really is true about your health, that when your health is not there, you can't focus on anything else. It's just
Absolutely.
impossible, and nothing mattered to me yesterday. Nothing. And it was Sunday. In fact, church didn't matter. And I'm a Eucharistic minister. So I had to call and say, I can't even get out of bed. Right. But nothing mattered yesterday except managing my health. And because it just takes so much of a priority over things. And so it really does create a cloud of everything else around you.
Right.
So I really love that. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, one of the resources I love having my clients listen to is, or read, is the book called Essentialism. And one of the things in that book that I really love, and it hit home with me, particularly with health, is, especially as an entrepreneur, to know that you are the asset. When you realize that you are the asset in your business, meaning if you're not up and going, if your health isn't great, if you don't have good focus, you don't have clarity, you don't feel good, how is it that you're going to actually long-term be able to help other people? And, that's where you start feeling burnout. That's where you just don't have the energy. That's where you tend to, all of a sudden you're, twisting your ankle because you are not fully conscious because you didn't get enough sleep. I mean, there's so many things that come back to having that extreme self-care. And, some people look at that as being selfless. And I think it's being selfless, that you have to, right?
You have
and
to.
I think
sort of airplane, right? Get your best on first so you can help others. Yeah.
And I think for every decade that, we get older in the world too, I think that we really start appreciating that health even more, because we start looking at, we have, impact and legacy and significance that we want to have. And if we don't feel good and we can't, be our best self, we can't do that work.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely love that. And I think the Essentialism book, isn't that a white covered book with a squiggly
Yes.
line? Yeah. Because I've read it a couple of times. It's a really, really good book. So that kind of brings me to this question. This particular podcast is, exploring people's, what people have gone through, to break through glass ceilings, that they had, whether it was decision making or something really big. And so a lot of people are listening that are, and especially now that we're in the COVID challenge, is they're saying, maybe I don't want that job. Maybe this was the catalyst. And I've been sharing with a lot of people, COVID, it's not what COVID's doing to you, but what COVID is doing for you.
Yes.
And they're in that challenge, they're in that space where they're saying, do I go back to the job full time? I hated it. Maybe this is the thing that needed to move me, the catalyst and the trigger to move me into a new space. And some people are still in that, losing sleep at night about, what do I do? Others are taking the baby steps and are kind of in the middle of it and wondering and meandering around, wondering, was this the right thing, or it's cool? And others have come on the other side of it. So when we think about decision making in each one of those quadrants, what are some suggestions you could give to someone who's thinking about leaving the comfort of that long-term salaried job, and now going into chasing, I shouldn't say chasing, but following, not even really following your dream, right? Don't follow your dream, pursue it. Pursuing that beautiful, passionate dream of owning another business or going into, some type of philanthropy work. So what can you do to help? What could you suggest to someone who's going through that and really struggling through it?
Right. Well, I think that the litmus test of that is time. Time gives us perspective to everything. And, if we said something like, well, this is like the big legacy thing, the big dream job, the entrepreneurial pursuit, this is the thing I want to have in my lifetime, it feels so elusive, like it's something that is going to happen, 20 years from now or down the line or just, whenever kind of thing. And I think that when we put things in perspective, when we start actually writing, like, what are the accomplishments at the, on our deathbed, what is it that we want to say that we've accomplished? Who do we want to impact? Who's it going to involve? What's it actually look like? And if we put ourselves where we are today, where would we be with that if we had a year left to live, if we had 6 months to live, if we had a month to live, if we had a week to live? When we start moving that time back and, you are picturing yourself on that deathbed 1 week from today, how important are those things that we say we want to do? Like, I look at those things just like you do, like COVID and things happening in the world. Those are all external things that, yes, we always have those things. There's always, somebody doing something in politics. There's something happening with the environment. There's something happening with religions. I mean, these are just things that spin as part of the human experience. We have to get really, really clear of what we are about. What's that internal world? What is the impact that we want to have? We don't have the time that we think that we have. I mean, we just, this past weekend, a friend of ours who they just retired, and her husband had a heart attack and died in his backyard. Relatively young. We've heard all of these different stories that have happened, and no one is on their deathbed saying like, oh, I wish I would have done more things on my to-do list. It's like, who were the people that I spent time with? What was the impact that I had? Why am I here? What do I want to have happen? What is it I want people to say about what I've done? And how do I want to feel fulfilled? And have I done the purpose, that good and faithful servant at the end of your life? And so when we look at it with a sense of urgency, that's where I think people can make those decisions, that it's not letting the fear of whether I do it or not. It's how much can I jump in and learn along the way? What kind of mentors can I have that can, accelerate it faster for me? Who is it that I want to emulate that is doing something similar that I can look at that? There's so many resources out there that can show us how to do it. You have to do that first step of committing that I'm all in.
Right. And actually take the steps, because otherwise it's a Netflix. Right?
Yes.
It's Netflix. I think that's pretty funny. Okay, let's talk about second guessing. I also known as buyer's remorse. I'll call it that. Right? But second guessing, I always choose a word every year that is my word for the year. This year my word is simplicity. Last year my word was wisdom. Because when I made the transition into coaching and speaking, full time, right? I'd already been doing it, but when I made the transition into doing it full time, I felt like I was making decisions left, right, and sideways, costing me an arm and a leg, with a lot of debt, consuming a lot of debt, because it was a new arena that I was playing in. And I felt like, oh, I don't have the knowledge. So I've got to get coaches around me. I have to surround myself. And I felt like a chipmunk. I had all these nuts in my mouth. The only thing I was swallowing and consuming was saliva, right? I had nothing else going on, and I wasn't fulfilled. And so it made me say, hey, are the decisions I'm making correct? And so, for last year, it was all about wisdom, gaining wisdom, to be able to make decisions that could really move my practice forward. So when we think about second guessing, and so I was, every time I was making a decision, I was starting to second guess, like, is this really right? Is it not right? I learned before it was bad and I got burned. Now it's my fault. And how do you get past that second guessing so that you can move on? I mean, I felt like I got very stifled. Well, again, I was chewing. I had so much in my mouth, I couldn't even chew. So it's one thing to chew on it.
Yes.
But, I mean, how do you get past that second guessing? That was a real struggle for me. And I feel like I'm past it now to a certain extent. I feel like it's more of a wisdom decision than a second guessing. There were many nights where I woke up and said, I never should have bought that. I never should have gotten that. I have to call them in the morning and say no. And then I didn't, because I had another second thought, right?
Right.
So what are some suggestions that you can help people with second guessing themselves?
I love so much that you've brought this up, Jen, because this is such a big issue. And so a lot of people think that they're going to get to a certain point in their business and they're not going to, have that second guessing, or they're going to, get to a certain point where that's not going to happen anymore. And I think it evolves into a different level of that. And
Yeah.
I think part of what really helps in the second guessing is, one, know your values, right? Know the whole parameters of how you make decisions in the first place. Gather all the knowledge that you have out there, right? This is why we have advisors. We've got, whether we actually have a team of advisors or we have a mentor, or, we're watching certain people that we, respect and trust on
Mhm.
social media, and
Yeah.
looking at how are they making certain decisions. And when you see other people make big decisions, you then kind of can weigh in, like, do I agree with that? Do I not agree with that? And then you start putting the stake in the ground of what you stand for and
Yeah.
how you make certain decisions about what's your end game, like where does it you want to go. Part of making decisions today has to do with what is the expectations you have for yourself, what is the
Right.
result that you want to have for yourself. And so when you look at that kind of big picture, when you're looking at an individual decision, you take all of that knowledge. But I love how you had the word with wisdom, because when it comes down to making big decisions, it has to be completely that gut decision. It has to be that wisdom. It's the culmination of your experience, your life. You just know that this is the direction to go into. And particularly for women, even if you're like at 50% of knowing, to still go with that anyway, to not have that paralysis of waiting for 100%. I don't know too many people that have 100% sure on any decision. It's like, it's almost like that preponderance of the evidence. Like, enough
Right.
of it makes sense that you just make that decision. And instead of going into that spin of second guessing, go into just taking a deep breath and letting the decision breathe. Like,
Yeah.
you made that decision for a reason. Let the next step happen. Let it move forward. Let things happen, because then certain things reveal itself after you've made that initial decision. The great thing is you can make another decision. Where people get caught up is they want to go back to that original decision. You don't want to go backwards. It's all about going forward with the new information that you had. And part of getting past second guessing is that you made all the best information you can with all the information you had in the moment. When new information becomes available, then you can make different decisions,
Right.
and you can continue to move forward. I mean, any of us who are a parent, we can go back and go, oh, I could have made this decision. I would have done this or whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't make a difference. Our kid is not 5 anymore, right? They're now
Right.
15, 25, 35. And we just
Mhm.
keep making decisions now that we have more information. That's why those second and third kids tend to, do a little bit better, because you weren't practicing like you were on the
Right,
first kid,
right.
you
I
know?
love that analogy. Thank you very much. I mean, that helps me too, because, when I do make, I mean, I just made a big, major financial decision yesterday on Sunday. It was the only thing I could muster up was to have this conversation, and made a big decision yesterday. And, I feel good about it today, but I love that you're saying, don't go back and say, I shouldn't have done that. I would have done it different, but rather, now that I have made that decision, how do I make the best of that decision, and make sure that I'm forging forward with that. And I think that's probably the biggest aha that I'm getting from this time here together. And I'm hoping that the people that are listening are saying, you know what, that's it, doggone it. I'm going to start my own business. Doggone it. I'm going to leave this company, because the information I have right now says I don't want to go back to that 9 to 5. I don't want to go sit in that sterile office, which look at the walls that my husband sits in all day. It's terrible. I'm in his office today. I don't want those. I don't want those things anymore. So doggone it. I'm gonna take the next step. So Diane, tell us what, I know you have a gift for us in helping us take this movement on. So tell us a little bit about the gift, and we'll of course have the link in the show notes.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Mhm.
So the gift is resetyourpowergift.com. And I use the word reset because sometimes people look at power as something you either have it or you don't. We all have power. We all come in with that. Sometimes we let life circumstances throw us off. And I've created this just checklist to be able to look at, where have you given your power away? How do you reset it? How do you get it back? And how do you move through some of these decision-making skills so that you can, build your wisdom, build your confidence, and feel good about moving forward with any decision that it is that you need to make. So it's
What a
Reset Your Power
beautiful
Gift.
gift. Yeah, what a beautiful gift. I can't wait to get it myself. I love being a podcast interviewer because I get all these wonderful gifts too. I use them. And I use them. I mean, that's what, it's all about getting yourself better. Great Les Brown says, if you're casual about your business will become a casualty. He also says, if you're casual about your life will become a casualty. And I'm always working on purpose, always, intentional about what I'm doing and very purpose driven. And that's, of course, the purpose driven life, right? That's
Yes.
exactly why. So if someone's listening to this and they would love to reach out with you and have you help them get over this hump and start making better decisions and start actually making decisions, how or what would be the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, I'm definitely on social media, so you can look under my name, Diane Halfman. Diane Halfman fan on Facebook. I'm also my name under Instagram. If you know that you really want to have a conversation with me, you can go to dianehalfman.com/20-minute call, and that's 20MIN call. And I'm happy to support you in any way that you're at to make those decisions.
I love that. I love that. Well, Diane, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and your time with us here today. I love what I learned. I know that next time I make a decision, I'm not going to go backwards. I'm going to say, now I have new data. Where do I go from here? It's like being an investigator. No wonder you're so great at this. I absolutely love it. You have new evidence, right? And it takes you in a different path. I absolutely love that. So thank you so much for spending time with us today.
My pleasure, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you. So everybody who's listening, thank you again for spending time with me today and taking time out of your day to listen in. I hope that we've given you something that will change your life or at least tweak a few things in your life. And I just want to remind you to please write a review and give us a great 5-star rating. And if ever you run into someone who's broken through a glass ceiling that you think their story would be powerful for us to share, please let me know by getting a hold of me at jen@jenduplessis.com. And we'll catch you next time on Success to Significance.
You've been listening to Success to Significance with Jen Du Plessis, the #1 podcast for people wanting to give more value and make an impact. Loved this episode? Be sure to subscribe right now at www.jenduplessis.com/S2S for more stories, strategies, and thoughts to help you gain significance and success. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Join us next week for another breakthrough episode. Thank you for listening.